I'm not asking for a show of hands, but when have you recently experienced the real presence of Jesus Christ in your life? Understandably, probably most Catholics would say, well, the last time I went to communion, I was at Mass. Because it's a beautiful part of our faith that we do believe Christ is really present to nourish our deepest hunger and thirst for His love, which is everlasting. Now, the follow-up question, how would you answer? When have you recently encountered Jesus Christ, experienced Him in some way in your daily life apart from church? I know sometimes, again, understandably, that kind of can stump people. Well, gee, I'm not sure. I believe Jesus said He'd be with us always till the end of time. I believe He's there, but I can't really point to an experience. And through the years, some people have said, well, yeah, we need to get to know Jesus better, like in a friendship where you hear from each other, you know what's important to each other, you have similar values, you know what you stand for. And in a way, that is important. And we maybe don't think of it this way, but the scriptures that we have, and especially the stories, not only of His teachings, but of His encounters with people, just as we hear today, can give us a deeper understanding and hopefully closeness to the Lord, because we see the same Jesus there 2,000 years ago is the Jesus in His Spirit who wants each of us to encounter Him in our daily lives. And so it's good to go back to the Scripture to get a better understanding then, so we understand Him now. And I know you've heard before, we've said, St. Augustine one time said that ignorance of Scripture is ignorance of Christ, because we best get to know Him in the Scriptures, whether it's daily reading and prayer, and obviously in our Sunday gathering. And with that, I want to go back to some of the reading that we just heard. Again, imagine yourself, maybe a spectator, maybe not standing that far from Jesus and the Samaritan woman, and overhearing their conversation and seeing how He responded to her. And so that staying mindful of that's how He is with us this day. We see that He goes through Samaria, and notice this. It starts off by saying He goes to Jacob's well. Jesus, tired from His journey, sat down at the well. Probably a lot of times we wouldn't think about that. Jesus, tired, it was noonday, it was hot, He was tired. To know that He was truly fully human, that He's relatable. That I'm not going to ask you a show of hands how many people here get tired. But He did, and He knows what you're going through. He experienced a lot throughout His public ministry that wore Him out at times. So, He comes here, and of course, then there's a Samaritan woman came to draw water. Notice here, then and now, who initiates the relationship? In this case, it's Jesus who first talks to her. He says to her, "Give me a drink." And mindful that when we are conscious of our relationship with God every day, the Lord loves us. The Lord wants to be in relationship with us. The Lord wants us to have that kind of conversation back and forth throughout our lives. He initiates the relationship because God is love, and love wants to connect. Love wants to commune. To believe that in our own spirituality and be open to that. And of course, then we see the woman mentions the obstacle. Probably us could come up with obstacles for, why are you talking to me, Lord? But she says to him, hey, you're a Jew. How can you ask me, a Samaritan and a woman, for a drink? Recall that Jews have nothing to do with Samaritans. She's struck by this. This is a great taboo. He shouldn't even be talking to a woman at the well anyway, because usually men and women were at separate sites at the well. And a Jew talking to a Samaritan, why is he doing that? Again, we know Jesus then and now wants to break through. No matter who we are, no matter what background, no matter how our IQ, no matter how much money we make, no matter our ethnicity, no matter. Jesus wants to encounter us and our being able to encounter Him. There's nothing that He'll let get in the way. We sometimes get in our own way of the Lord, but not him. And another way, and it doesn't come out in this portion of the reading, but another way that if we were watching that encounter, the Lord, the woman probably thinks, oh, I hope he doesn't know my past. He'd probably leave then. And so in that part of the section, Jesus says, call your husband. And she says, I have no husband. Probably hoping that he's not from Samaria. He probably doesn't know the story. But then he says to her, you're right, you have no husband. You've had 5. And the one you're living with now is not your husband. Whoa. This guy knew all that already. And this guy wants to connect with me and converse with me in some way. That had to shock her. Because there was no way any rabbi or anyone like that would be in conversation with someone with such a sinful past life. And again, he conveyed to her and he conveys to us. We can let sin get in the way. We can, Lord, I know I'm not pious. I don't go to church regularly, or I've messed up a few things. You know what I've done. I didn't want anybody to know, but you know. And so I don't know that we can have a relationship. I'm not worthy enough. Jesus would probably say, be quiet. I love you. You're not earning my love. It's a gift. I know your past. I know what you've done. And yet, what I want to show you love and move you into the future. And I probably said this at various homilies too. It's a good example for all of us. Jesus is the one who knows us best and loves us most. Do we really believe that? No, he knows everything about us. And knowing all that, he still wants to be in a deep and loving relationship with us. Because that's what love is all about. That's what Jesus is all about. And so we see this. And we see this woman is so touched by this. That this Jesus, she talks about, well, they say the Messiah is supposed to be coming. And then Jesus says to her, because she's open-hearted and open-minded, says, I am he. I am he. Wow. The Messiah coming for me with my past, with having a different ethnicity, with being a woman. That had to astound her. And yet she came to believe it. She came to see Jesus was that kind of guy. Jesus was that kind of God conveyed in his human form. And what did she do? Once she was touched by the Lord and his goodness and knew it was pure gift, she went out to tell the townspeople. And think about it. She had to lose self-consciousness because those town people probably initially would have said, yeah, we've heard your story. You had 5 guys. Is this another one on the line? She didn't care what they thought. She had been touched by love. And the very nature of that love was to share it, to go out and say, hey, see the one who's known everything I've ever done and still loves me. Come and see him. And so the townspeople were drawn to come and see him because they saw the change in her, because she knew a God who saw her through and through, loved her as she is, and wanted to help her to be better. So for all of us this day, in a few moments, we're going to have the elect come forward. And they're people who are unbaptized, who are going to be baptized at the Easter Vigil. Once they've come forward, and we offer prayers for them, coming forward with them to leave Mass and reflect on the Scriptures today, will be others who've been baptized in other Christian communions, and will also be joining us at the Easter table. In all of this today, let's just take a quiet moment before we do all of that and reflect. Jesus Christ wants to be in relationship with you. Listening to even the Scripture today to get to know him better, to get to know how he wants to relate to you. Let him in. Let him touch your heart. He wants to be so near to you now and always. Quiet moment to be open to the Lord's presence.